Hello, my spooky crew, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Alex, and thanks for coming to my spooky corner of the internet. All right, so I've taken a few weeks off because my microphone broke. Like, it just went out, and the sad part about this whole thing was I had like pre-recorded like a month's worth of content. I was so excited to finally be ahead in my content creation, and then when I went to go through the first video I had recorded, I couldn't hear anything. Technically, the microphone did record sound, but it was so low that it just wasn't salvageable. I even sent the audio and the video to a few people, being like, can you save this? And they couldn't. So yeah, so I had to get a new microphone, so you could probably see the new rig right here. So far it sounds good. Let me know if you like it or not. I have to give a shout out to my Patreon supporters. This would not have been possible without my wonderful Patreon supporters. If you want to join my Patreon, I do like a little behind the scenes content. I also have like a watch me work session. So if you want to work on your projects together, you know, I'll have these watch me work sessions. I'll post behind the scenes photos. I'll put up samples of writing that I'm working on so you can get a sneak peek. Depending on what tier you join with my Patreon, you'll get a free copy of one of my books each year for Christmas or for the holidays. So yeah, if you want to join my Patreon, it's right down here wherever I decide to put it. Now, I'm basically re-recording all of my content. So this is the first topic out of 4 that I had created, which is about Vanessa Hudgens. I've done a little bit of content on Vanessa Hudgens before. I had made a TikTok video about Vanessa Hudgens calling a cemetery her happy place. She had gotten a lot of hate for it, and meanwhile I'm sitting here like, well, y'all know about the history of cemeteries, right? And what's also ironic and interesting is that Vanessa Hudgens and I, we didn't directly know each other, but we like ran adjacent to each other because we were both part of the Southern California youth theater circle. So I knew of her. I don't know if she knew of me, but I definitely knew of her before she got big with High School Musical. And I was really impressed recently because she came out about her paranormal experiences and her abilities, which we will get into in just a moment. But before we get started, be sure to click on that subscribe button, give this video a like, and be sure to click on that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload a new video. And if you want more spooky stories, paranormal content, and ghost hunting tips, then head on over to my website at thespookystuff.com. Also exciting news, I contributed some pieces to a few publications. One of them is the Morbid Curious, which is put out by Troy Taylor. There's my name right there. If you go to AmericanHauntingsInc.com, you can actually order a copy. And I wrote a piece about one of my favorite haunted locations in North Carolina, the Trivett Clinic. It's called The Haunting That Keeps a Community Together. And there's my name. I'm also in volume 3 of The Feminine Macabre. There we go. With a foreword by Bridget Marquardt. And in this one, I wrote a piece about the future of paranormal investigations, which you can see right here. And if you want your own copy of The Feminine Macabre, you can find it on Amazon for like $20. But it's a really cool journal with a bunch of writings from female and non-binary paranormal research and investigators. So definitely worth checking out. I'm also in volume 1 as well. Now, let's get started. And if you're super observant, you might have noticed I have a sleeping Cali cat behind me. She's so cute. Okay, let's start talking about Vanessa Hudgens. Recently, she was on the Kelly Clarkson Show. Yes, Kelly Clarkson has her own talk show now. And Kelly mentioned to Vanessa that, you know, hey, I hear you're into like some paranormal spooky stuff. And Vanessa's like, actually, I've had gifts my entire life. This is just the first time people are really hearing about it. I'm really thrilled to see that Vanessa has an interest in paranormal investigations, and it seems that she's gifted. Now, according to the interview and a few subsequent articles that came out, Vanessa can see and hear ghosts, which is interesting. It's not the first time I've heard of creative people being more prone to paranormal experiences. I mean, I've written a whole book about it. One of the earliest experiences that Vanessa talks about is she was getting ready to go to school one morning. She was like getting ready to go out the door. And as she was walking out the door, one of her toys, which is the ducks that you pull with a string and it's got like the mama duck and the baby ducks behind it, that was moving by itself with nobody pulling it. And Vanessa went on to talk about how this has been something that's been happening to her whole life. And of course, fast forward to modern day, Vanessa had posted a photo on her Instagram holding a photo, I think it was like the Ghost Hunting magazine special. And then she told Kelly about a recent paranormal investigation she did at a cemetery. She was with her friend Gigi. Gigi could be somebody more significant. I don't follow Vanessa Hudgens to a T, so if Gigi is more of a known person, a mainstream celebrity, and not just Vanessa's friend, then my apologies to Gigi. But yeah, she and Gigi were at the cemetery and they were using a spirit box to communicate with whatever spirit was around. And this is where I got really impressed with Vanessa. So Kelly Clarkson asked Vanessa what a spirit box was, and Vanessa accurately described what a spirit box was. You know, she talked about the sweeping radio frequencies and how it is believed that ghosts can communicate with us through those channels. And the other thing that really impressed me about Vanessa was that she talked about how she uses AM stations as opposed to FM stations because there's not as much environmental noise. In my experience using a spirit box or an SB7 or even my Shack Hack radio, I have found that AM radio stations are quieter because FM stations tend to have a lot of the pop, rock, oldies, a lot more music stations. So you could be hearing Britney Spears and Billie Eilish and Elvis Presley coming through the spirit box. Not their ghosts, just their music. So I was really impressed when Vanessa mentioned about the AM stations. I was like, oh yeah, girl, good for you. And so Vanessa went over a little bit about the interaction, about how she was asking the spirit like its name and what her name was. And then she asked the spirit in their presence, like if they wanted them to leave, and they're like, yeah. So I really appreciated like Vanessa's honest take on the experience and not just like embellishing or making stuff up for attention. So seriously, Vanessa Hudgens, welcome to the Paranormal Club. If you want to go on a ghost hunt, please, give me a call. I'd love to take you to some of my favorite spots on the East Coast. I mentioned this earlier. This is not uncommon to hear about creative people like actors, musicians, dancers, having more paranormal experiences than others. Now, could some of it be because, the whole theaters are haunted thing? Yeah, sure. There's a lot of haunted theaters out there, and I feel like theaters are haunted because there's so much energy there between like the people, the actors and the audience, the electronics, the props, the costumes. It's just one big like battery for spirits. That's just my own personal theory. I can't really prove it in like a laboratory or anything, but considering that there are so many reported hauntings in theaters, I think there's something to this. But I'm not the first one to have this theory. So in 1992, a group called the American Society for Psychical Research did an experiment on students at Juilliard to see if they were more sensitive to like ESP and if they were psychically gifted. Now, the American Society for Psychical Research, they are a parapsychology-based organization. So they're not necessarily studying ghosts and paranormal per se. Parapsychology is the study of the brain's relationship with the external environment. So this could be like telekinesis, psychic abilities, and really ghosts and paranormal stuff could fall under that, but a lot of parapsychologists don't like that. So the experiment that ASPR did on the Juilliard students when it comes to the Ganzfeld experiment was a sender-receiver type of experiment. The Ganzfeld experience or the Ganzfeld experiment is a sensory deprivation experience. The person who is the receiver, they will have headphones, noise-canceling headphones on with white noise playing in the ears. They will have a very plain field of vision. So most people will use like goggles that have been painted white, or they will use ping pong balls. And they will have a red light in front of them. I've done the Ganzfeld a few times. I have the supplies to do the Ganzfeld experiment with myself and my team. So the idea behind that is while the person is under with the red light, the white field of vision, the white noise on the noise canceling headphones, is that it opens them up to receiving messages or receiving different elements. And then usually in another room, like watching on camera or even just like appropriately distanced from the receiver, the sender is sending over information. Now that could be images, it could be words, it could be song lyrics. And basically while this is happening, the receiver is talking about like, I see the president, or I see soccer balls, I see a beach, or I hear Britney Spears, I hear music, that sort of thing. And depending on the relationship and the dynamic between the sender and receiver, it could be a hit, it could be a miss. I've done the Ganzfeld experiment, my gosh, hundreds of times now. And the one experience that I had where there was a constant hit, it was between two guys on my team who were both in the military. One was in the Navy, one was in the Marines. They were having hit after hit after hit. And ironically, the guy in the Marines, when he and his wife did the Ganzfeld experiment together, they were getting a lot of misses. I mean, they had a few hits, but there were a few misses too. They're still married, don't worry. It's not indicative that their marriage was in trouble, trust me. But the two guys who went through military boot camp of some fashion, they were having just hit after hit after hit. It was so cool to watch. So ASPR goes to Juilliard and does the Ganzfeld experiment on students. So they categorize them in a few different groups. You had the musicians, the dancers, and the actors. So here's the description of the experiment. We report an ESP Ganzfeld study with an exceptional population, students from the Juilliard School in New York City, a world-renowned conservatory for the performing arts. 20 undergraduate Juilliard students each served as a receiver in a single telepathy Ganzfeld session at the Psychophysical Research Laboratories, PRL. The study utilized automated testing procedures described by Honorton, Berger, Varvoglis, Quant, Der, Schechter, and Ferrari. The Juilliard students achieve a significant success rate of 50%, double the chance expectation of 25%. Students of music demonstrated the most outstanding performance. 6 of the 8 musicians obtained direct hits. No significant relationships were observed between ESP performance and either personality or creativity measures. As a group, Juilliard students' performance was significantly superior to the PRL general population. We identified several significant differences in the two populations. So what this is saying is that the Juilliard students as a whole had significantly more hits than just like the average population. And then within the 20 undergraduate students from Juilliard, the music students had even more hits and even more success. So that tells me that maybe there's something when it comes to like music training that, you know, kind of reprograms the brain a bit. I mean, I remembered when I was growing up, when I was struggling with math, my math teacher suggested that my mom put me in music lessons and piano lessons. And wouldn't you know it, my math skills greatly improved when I was in music. I do wonder where like the musical theater students would fall in this, because they also do music, they act, and they dance, they do all these different types of things. So I wonder like where the musical students or the musical theater students would, you know, where would they be positioned in all of this? But anyway, this is a legit study done by the American Society of Psychical Research that pretty much validated that, you know, creative people may have a better success rate with the Ganzfeld, which means they could be significantly more open to receiving messages. In a paranormal sense, I've noticed a surge in paranormal investigators who are using the Ganzfeld experiment. But instead of having a physical living person as the sender, they're hoping that the ghosts would be the sender. So it's still a sender-receiver type of experience, but this time the sender is a ghost. And if the Ganzfeld experiment is opening up our senses and our ESP and whatnot, then, you know, maybe there is more effective spirit communication with the Ganzfeld. The Ganzfeld experiment and the Estes method are kind of two totally different things-ish. I mean, with the Estes method, it's usually like the spirit box that's sweeping through, and instead of having a plain field of vision, I mean, they're blindfolded, which I guess in a way is its own plain field of vision. So you still have like the noise in the headphones, the plain field of vision, but this time completely blacked out. And then, you know, the whole, I struggle with the Estes method because most people see it as, oh, it's putting you into a trance and it's putting you into a different state of mind to receive the messages, as opposed to what other people think is that, you know, you're hearing spirits through the spirit box and, you know, regurgitating what you're hearing. So that's a whole other topic for another time. So what do you think? Do you think creative people are more vulnerable to experiencing the paranormal? And what do you think of Vanessa Hudgens and her new passion for the paranormal? Well, old passion, it's been there for a while. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. And if you enjoyed this video, then feel free to send it to your friends and family who also enjoy the spooky stuff. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next round.